I am excited to bring you Ecclesiastes 11 this morning. We're going to continue our series, and I don't know about you, but this series has been really good to me because when I first saw this was coming up on the message calendar, I was like, can we skip that one? Just because I just read it, and it was not my favorite book of the Bible. Anybody relate with that? Not now. It's different now. But just because when I read it the first time, I zoomed through it, and I was like, man, this is a depressing book, and I do not like this. I don't want to read it again. I thought Solomon was wise, and now I'm questioning everything. But here we are. It's been really good just to slow down and go through Ecclesiastes. We're all the way at 11 now, and just to see what Solomon has to say and find out what he's really meaning, even though we may look at the word and it says life is meaningless. That's not what he's meaning. He's not saying life is pointless. He's not saying any of that. He's saying there's so much point in it, but it goes very fast. So we're going to kind of continue this today. Today we're going to be going through chapter 11 of Ecclesiastes. And as we do, we're going to continue to see this theme of just being present and living in the here and now. And, as I was thinking about this, I was trying to think of, somebody or something in my life that I thought was like really present, who I thought was really present. And there's plenty of people in my life that I thought of. But one weird one kept coming to my mind, and of course that's what I want to talk about today. It's Forrest Gump. That movie just kept coming to the top of my mind. And I'm sure most of you, has anybody not watched Forrest Gump in here? I don't want to ruin it for you. If you haven't, we can talk after and we can still make sure you're okay. But if you're like me, you've watched it probably 10 times and you want to continue to watch it. But what do we know about Forrest Gump? Tell me some things that we know. He's not a smart man. Yes. What else? There we go. We're hearing him. We got all of his quotes coming. I love it. He loves Jen A. Yes, he does. He does. As I was thinking about it and just kind of going through it, man, he had a kind of a crazy life when you think about it. I don't think he knows that. The character doesn't know that, but he had a crazy life. He started with the things around his knees to where he couldn't bend his knees. And then one day he was being bullied and they were coming after him with the truck and he broke out of them and he took off like a cheetah. And from that, he became one of the fastest runners, played at Alabama, played football, which was really cool. We know he loved Jen A through his whole life. We know he went into the military soon after that, right? Which was a really cool time for him just because you could see him like be fully present in that. When he got back, he played ping pong. I feel like he was just so good at everything he did, which was really annoying to me. But he played ping pong. He was really good at ping pong. With his money that he got from ping pong, he started, what company did he start? Bubba Gump Shrimp and Company. Why do I do this with a country accent? Everything I say now. So he started Bubba Gump Shrimp and Company with Lieutenant Dan in memory of Bubba. He did that, and then he invested in the fruit company, which we know now is Apple, which worked out really well for him. And man, just throughout his whole life, he just lived a happy, and to him, what seemed like simple life, to us it'd be crazy. But it was so cool because he was just so in the moment, right? He was the nicest, most honest character I feel like I've ever seen. He just said what he thought. And also, he was just so generous and kind in his living. Almost to a flaw. I remember one of my funniest parts of the movie is when he walks up to Bubba's family and presents them with a check of money, and the lady just passes out, like just, and falls back. It's just one of the funniest moments to me. But this was Forrest. He was always present and in the current moment. And man, he used his past to really just be thankful, I feel like, for what he had. So I don't know why that kept coming to my mind, but it did. And it was just really cool to think about how he was so present in every single season of life, whether it was playing football, whether it was in the military, whether it was ping pong. Oh, and don't forget his 3-year-long run that lasted over 15,000 miles, which was kind of crazy to even think about. So yeah, all of these things he was so present in. And to me, that's really challenging to me because that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I was kind of shook with this a little bit. On our way back, me and Savannah just went on a cruise with our kids, and we were on the way back from the airport, and she was asking me, she was like, what are you speaking about on Sunday? And I told her like the overall theme was continue to just being present in the life of here and now. She was like, how do you think you did with that or do with that? And I'm like, I feel like I'm pretty good. Like I'm so in the moment when I'm here. And instead of like, yeah, you are, it just got quiet. I was like, oh, all right, got it. I was like, do you think I'm not? She was like, I think you struggle a little bit. And I was like, all right, cool. But that challenged me because here's the thing, right? We all kind of struggle with being present in the here and now in some way. And we all do it in our own way. And the thing I want us to focus on today is what areas of life are you avoiding being present in? What areas of life are you avoiding being present in? Are you waiting for a different circumstance or situation to come up where you can be like, finally now I can relax and just be present? Does anybody kind of relate with that this morning? What areas of life are you avoiding being present in? And there's so many small examples in my life. I'll tell you one quick one right now that I'm trying to work on my best. And I think this is what Savannah was talking about. So at night, every night, we put Eden and Haven to sleep. And when we put Haven to sleep, we go over to Eden's room and we each read her a book. And this is a really cool time if you're present in it. But what I like to do is I read my book, and when it's Savannah's turn, I start scrolling on Instagram. And what I realize is about, a couple minutes into it, it's deathly quiet in there. And I look up, and they're both staring at me. I'm like, all right, this is not good. I'm not being present in the moment. And I think this is what we're kind of talking about as a whole here today. It's just being present in the moments of life and figuring out where the joy of life is in that. So that's just one area that I'm growing in. You're probably better than me. Good for you. But if you struggle with me in that, this is going to be good today. We're in Ecclesiastes 11, and we're going to go ahead and read through verses 1 through 10. Send your grain across the seas, and in time profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you don't know what risk might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy and rains come down, whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby being or growing in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God, who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. And then it kind of switches gears here a little bit in 7. Light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life. But let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. And remember, it's not really meaningless, but what we say is meaningless. It really just means like a vapor. It passes quickly. Young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. This is what I was waiting for right here. Like, this is what I needed the whole time. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. But remember that youth, with a whole life ahead of you, is meaningless. So we got a couple of things that we're going to talk about today, and I'd love to make it through all of them if I can. But we can see Solomon kind of shifts gears midway, so kind of track with me the best you can. My first point here I want to make is that Solomon is challenging us to be generous in a bold and almost risky way, it feels like. And generosity, just to be very clear, is the quality of being kind and generous with what you have. In Hebrews 13, verse 16, it says, "And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifice God is pleased." And I don't know about you, but that kind of is challenging to me. When it says to send your bread on the surface of the water, it speaks of taking risk with your generosity. And as I've gotten older, I don't know why, maybe this is just the case for everybody, but generosity seems to get harder as you get older. Maybe it's just the season of life I'm in. Maybe it's just the way the world is right now. But when I was younger, and maybe this was because it was like my mom's money, I don't know. But like when I was younger, I didn't care to give money to people. I didn't care to buy people food. Like I was just going with the flow of it to make them happy and to do something nice for them. Shout out Mom, because you made a lot of people happy. But it was easier then. It was easier to not just be generous with my money, because that's not the only thing we're talking about here with generosity. I'm talking about being generous with your time, being generous with your gifts and your skills, because there's so much more to generosity than just money. Like I used to love I feel like I didn't live at my house. I was always out doing things with people, helping people at the church, whatever it was. I was always out with people because I enjoy doing it. But now as life goes on, I have a family now. I have more responsibilities. I have bills I have to pay. I can't give away all my money. And honestly, I just have my own goals and plans that I want to achieve. So it becomes more challenging to be generous. Does anybody relate with that this morning? It becomes more challenging. And I think this is a key struggle for many of us that will probably last our entire life, if I'm being honest. Like, it's not going to get easier, I feel like. I don't think it just goes away. I think you can grow in it, but I don't think we ever reach that point where generosity is just natural. It becomes easier, but I don't think it's just something that we just do. We have to kind of think about it. And this is why, here at Live Oak, one of our discipleship steps, this is what Abby was talking about earlier, is the practice of giving generously. And here, our discipleship of giving generously, discipleship step of that is kind of focused on giving and trusting God with what he's doing. But like I said, I think this goes, what we're talking about today, past just giving generously. I want to be clear, I'm not giving you like a giving message. I'm going to leave that to Brian and the elders. But this is a challenge to grow in your generosity in your everyday life, not just on Sundays, but in your everyday life. When you go into work, when you're around your friends, with your family, all of those things. This is a challenge to grow in your generosity in those areas. This challenges us to be Christ-like with our money, with our possessions, with our time, and it brings perspective and purpose to those things if we're doing it in the right way, if we're focused on being generous with them. I don't know, Abby, again, mentioned this. Abby's just giving my whole little preview of my message. But in these giving videos we've had over the past couple of months, I don't know if you've seen them, but they've been really encouraging to me because what you see is that God loves a cheerful giver. In each one of their testimonies in these videos, God moved in a mighty way in their lives. And I don't think he just went and dropped a big check in their checking account. I don't think that's what he's going to do, but he moved in mighty ways because he loves a cheerful giver. In 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 8, it says this: "Remember, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get only small crop, but the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. You must each decide in your own heart how much to give, and don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. For God loves a person who gives cheerfully." I'm not just telling you that to make you feel good. That's the word of God right there. "And God will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others." So we're talking about giving in a way that is almost a little bit risky, to trust that God will provide all you need. And like I said, I think you can talk to the Broadwells, you can talk to Brian and Abby, you can talk to the Stagers, and I think they will probably, well, maybe he did do this. Maybe he did drop a big check in their account. I don't know. But I don't think they're going to say that that's the first thing or first reason they did it. I think they're going to speak about the joy they felt after giving generously and after being generous with what God has blessed them with in their life. And see how God just continued to show his faithfulness as they showed their faithfulness and trust to him. So the area I want to challenge you with today in giving generously and being generous, almost risky in a bold way, is what are the areas in your life that you're living tight-fisted, you're holding on so tight and not challenging your faith by being generous with what God has given you? What areas of life are you living tight-fisted and not challenging your faith by being generous with what God has given you? I'm sure you can think of some areas in your life, and I think, like I said, this is going to be a constant battle we face as we go throughout life of giving generously. When your friends this is my first thought of this, when your friends are telling you, like, man, this is a really bad day, like, I'm struggling to keep up with my work, all this stuff is going on, and you're like, stinks to be you. Like, what would it look like for you to, one, maybe take on some of their work, but two, maybe just go grab them a coffee and be like, hey, this is your pick-me-up. You got it. Keep pushing. The generosity of the little things in life can really make a big difference. What are the areas of life where you're living tight-fisted and not challenging your faith by being generous with what God has given you? Are you waiting for something? Which kind of leads into my next point here of don't wait for perfect conditions. Life circumstances are rarely ideal. Can I get an amen? It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to hit that point of, okay, that's my sign. That's it. Although for me, on my way home from Leland every day, or to Leland every day, I pass the sign on the side of the road. It's a big billboard, and it's the North Carolina Lottery billboard. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that one. And it tells you the current lottery winnings. And what that tells me is, hey, Michael, as you go around this curve, if you pull into this gas station right here and you spend a couple bucks, you could win that. And you know what I do for the next 5 or 10 minutes? Just imagine what life would be like. I'm like, oh, buddy, $500 million? Yeah, I could do a lot of good with that. Could also make myself very happy. I could buy a new house, pay off all debt. I could set my family up for success, all these things, right? Buy my new vehicle, my Jeep I've been always wanting, the perfect one, so on and so on, right? And I just spend the next 5-10 minutes thinking about this. And obviously, this is like a big example of waiting for that perfect thing to happen. But I think I do this in small ways as well, and you probably do as well, of thinking about, I need this to happen before I do the next step. I need X to happen before I start saving. I need this amount of money in my checking account before I start being generous with what I have. The list goes on and on and on of all of the things we try to wait for. And the funny thing is, none of them are usually bad. Some of them are kind of smart. Like, hey, I'm not going to go buy a house until I have enough to put a down payment on. That's probably smart. Don't do that. Or I'm not going to go buy a car until I know I can make the payments and it's not going to hurt me or my family. Probably smart. Don't do that. But here's the thing. As you're waiting, there will always be another goal. There will always be another challenge. And there will always be another hurdle to get over. Ecclesiastes says that those who wait for the perfect weather, they never sow and they never reap. They don't get anything. So you can't wait for the perfect conditions. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that you just go on a whim when you feel something and go buy something. That's not what I'm saying. But what we need to do here is act in faith and wisdom when it comes to making decisions. We don't wait for the perfect conditions, but we act in faith and wisdom. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm always, like the case is always that we're stronger in one of those areas, right? I'm super high on faith right now, and my wisdom is down in the dumps. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. Or my wisdom is so high, but I feel like God can't do it. And here's my challenge and the thing I would encourage you to do is that when you're stronger in one area and weaker in another, find somebody trustworthy to keep you accountable. Because if my faith is high and I say, God, I know you're going to provide. I know you can do this. I'm going to go buy my Jeep. And God, but I have to be able to make the payments. That's all I got to do. I got to be able to make the payments. And it works out where I can make the payments, but now my family is struggling. We're scraping by. I'm not acting in wisdom. I'm just acting in faith, trusting that God will somehow carry me through. And he does, but that can end up hurting me and my family. So you got to act in faith and wisdom. And if you're slacking in one of those areas, find somebody. I can point to numerous people around this room that I can recommend for you if you're slacking in the wisdom department like me, because I've needed them. I'm just being honest here. So if you're slacking in one of them, find somebody trustworthy to balance you out. You cannot wait for the perfect conditions to move. And if you overthink, you never move. And if you're not moving, guess what? It's hard to enjoy life and appreciate the blessings you already have. It's hard to appreciate those if you're not moving, if you're not trusting and moving in faith and in wisdom. So the thing I want you to think about here is, what are one or two areas of your life that you can grow in making decisions using faith and wisdom? That's kind of a heavy question. What is one or two areas of your life where you can grow in making decisions using faith and wisdom? Maybe it's kind of going back to the generosity theme here of maybe like you just need to trust that God will take care of you when you are generous with what you have. Maybe it is, hey, I'm going to give this person on the side of the street $10 and it's the only $10 I got in my wallet, but I'm going to trust that he's still going to take care of me and I have more than I need. What is one or two areas of life that you can grow in making decisions using faith and wisdom? And then the third part kind of ties into this here. My third point is that God works in mysterious ways. Ain't that the truth? God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And just like you can't understand, like Ecclesiastes says, how a life forms in the womb, you can't see everything God is doing. You cannot see everything God is doing. It says to sow seeds in the morning, and then it says that evening, keep working. Don't just sit there and hope that they grow. Do it again and see which one grows. And maybe they'll both grow, which is better. You got to keep going. You got to work because God works in mysterious ways. You know, last Friday night, if you weren't here, you missed it. We had the band Citizens come. Who was here? So good, right? So good. One, they sounded so good. If you haven't listened to Citizens, go listen to them. Two, it was a really cool moment because we were able to like talk to them and ask questions. It was so laid back and chill. And somebody asked them what the hardest song they had to write was, and I can't remember the name of it. But what he talked about was how like life is just so crazy. Like sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And he referenced this verse in Isaiah 55 that says, "My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine." And I was like, man, that's it right there. God's ways are mysterious. His ways are better. His ways don't make sense to us, but make perfect sense to him. And if we're going to trust that he knows what he's doing, then sometimes we just got to lay down our own thoughts and our own ways and trust him. And can I just let you loosen up a little bit here? Like everybody just shake it out real quick. You don't need to know everything to be faithful. You don't need to know it all. Let that just kind of drop off of you, that weight go, that you don't need to know everything to be faithful. I think it's important to grow in your knowledge of the word, but I don't think you need to know everything to be faithful. I really struggled with this for a long time, especially when I got on staff. The first thing they asked me, like, what do you want to grow in? I was like, I just want to be wise. I just want to be wise and know it all. But man, you don't have to know everything to be faithful. You can be faithful exactly where you are. But wouldn't it be nice to know that if you were generous, God was going to bless you in an amazing way? Wouldn't that be nice? Like, hey, if I do go give this $10 to somebody, I'm going to get $20 as I walk in. I'm going to find it on the ground at Harris Teeter. That'd be nice, right? It would be nice to know all of those things. It would make you want to be generous all the time, wouldn't it? If you knew what was going to happen after. If you gave money to everyone who was struggling, you would want to do it more because you would know you were going to get blessed. You would probably pay for your friends' meals like I did in high school because I just knew the money was going to keep coming from my mom. It would make you want to host get-togethers all the time because you knew God would bless you for those things. Like, man, it would be so good to know what God would do when you're generous with what you have. But we don't get to know that. We don't get to know that. God works in mysterious ways that don't make sense to us, but make complete sense to him. And thinking that we know exactly how God works is not the best idea, but trusting that God will provide for everything you need is something that I can be confident in. It's something that I can be confident in. And here's the thing, if you're struggling with this, take a look back at your life. Like if you're struggling, like, I don't know if he's going to provide. Just take a look back. Take a step out of your shoes right now and take a look at your life. And one of the best ways to see God's faithfulness is to see what he has done for you in the past. You know, I feel like we've been in the lowest of lows and the highest of highs of life, what it feels like for us. And it's so cool to take a step back and see how God provided in the most mysterious ways that don't make any sense in our life. One of the things that I'm trying to teach Eden right now as we do our prayers at night is I'm trying to model prayer for her in a way that she understands exactly what I'm saying later down the road, hopefully. So I'll start our prayers and just go through everything. And then at the end, I'm like, God, thank you for what you're doing. God, we pray that you just keep us safe and healthy. And God, provide all that we need in our everyday life. And I'm praying that she understands that God works in mysterious ways and provides everything that we need. Not what we want, because that's not what he says. Everything that we need in our life. So the question here today is that if you were certain that God would use your generosity or obedience in a big way, how would you act different? How would your life look different than what it is today? Would you be more generous just in your everyday life, when you go to work, when you're with your friends, when you're with your family, at church, whatever it is, would you be more generous? And then the question becomes, well, what's keeping you from doing that now? Is it a lack of faith? What's keeping you from doing these things now? And then we see Solomon kind of shift gears here from moving away from the idea of being present, still going with the idea of being present, but shifting gears from generosity to how sweet life is. So he shifts gears here and he's talking about enjoying the light of life. Life is sweet and it should be enjoyed. Amen? Like, we live a good life. I don't know about you, but living here in Wilmington, I feel like is one of the coolest things to do. The band citizens that came, he kept asking random questions. He's like, so what do y'all do here? And of course, with our crowd, what did everybody say? Surf. I was like, not everybody, but some people do like to surf. We enjoy the beach. And man, we just live such a blessed life here. And honestly, it's just more slow paced. And he immediately knew that by the way we were talking. He was like, it seems slow paced here. And I was like, he's right. Like, we live in a nice place. And in verse 8, it says, we should rejoice in everyday life as we get older. But the thing is, I feel like sometimes we forget to do this because our minds get so full of how life should be that we miss it. We focus on where we want to be rather than where we are. So this is challenging us to be present, I feel like, in our current moment, in the here and now. We're so focused on what's next that we're not able to stop and enjoy life and where we are. And this is where really discipline and intentionality come into play here. When we can slow down and enjoy the light of life that Solomon is talking about, we can find joy in our everyday life. We can find joy when we go to work. Believe it or not, there's joy there. Believe it or not, there's joy when you come home to a house full of crazy kids. Believe it or not, there's joy in every single season and every single part of your life if you're looking for it. And that's the challenge here. It's to slow down and to find that joy. Not focus on the next season, not focus on the next thing, not focus on where you want to be. I told you we just went on a cruise, and this was our second Disney cruise. And most of you are judging me already because I said Disney cruise. Yes, we went on a Disney cruise with our kids. It was so fun. I encourage it to everybody. Even if you don't have kids, you'll just don't be the couple that chose to book a Disney cruise for you and your spouse and then act like you don't like it. Like, if you're going to do it, just own it. You know what I mean? But on this Disney cruise, we went on one earlier, probably like 6 months ago. It was just a short 3-day cruise with Savannah's parents, which was really nice. But I don't know if you've ever done anything Disney in 3 days, but you are running. In 3 days, you are running, and we are running from point to point to point to point. And it felt so nice, but it also felt so stressed. So we look back, and we're like, man, that was fun, but we want to do it better next time. So we booked a 4-day cruise this time. We're moving on up. And let me just tell you, the difference was huge. We were so engaged, and maybe that just came from wisdom of knowing what to do on the cruise, and we weren't freaking out. But we were so present in the moment. When we were in lines, Eden was in the window, like, looking out. And to me, it was one of the coolest things. I told Savannah, I was like, I think I've taken more pictures on this one vacation than I have in my entire life. Just because I was so present, and I was seeing the moments where our daughters were just having so much fun, and me and Savannah were having so much fun. We were able to take pictures and enjoy the moment and enjoy the light of life that was there rather than focusing on the next thing or what was going to happen next or the next day getting off the boat or whatever it was. We were able to sit and enjoy it. We should be enjoying and soaking in all of the good times that we have in life because it's meant for good. But here's the thing, right? We have to remember that life is not always good, unfortunately. We face hard seasons and moments of life that we don't like, that kind of stink. We age, we grow older. One day we will die, and these are all things that we cannot control. Verse 8 says that we must remember that darkness and hard times and death will come at the end of it. And like I said, these are all things that we can't control, but if we're being honest, when you get out of a hard season, aren't you just so much more thankful for what you have? I don't know about you, but I know I sure am. I'm so thankful for what I have, and it makes me reflect on the things that I have and be thankful for them in the present and soak them in. Because joy and sober reflection should honestly just accompany us through our entire life. It shouldn't only have to come after a hard season. It should accompany us through our entire life. So the question is what good thing in your life are you overlooking because you're focused on what should be? That's the first question. What good thing are you overlooking because you're focused on the next thing? And the second question is, what would it look like for you to rejoice in everyday life, like verse 8 says? What would that look like? Imagine that life with me real quick. I feel like that would be a good life when we're rejoicing in everyday life as we're going through it. We're rejoicing at work. We're rejoicing at home. We're rejoicing when we're with our friends. We're rejoicing in all of the good things that God has for us and that he's blessed us with. What would it look like to rejoice in everyday life? And then the last point here is Solomon talks about youth, but I feel like it's just life in general. But enjoy youth or life responsibly. It says to rejoice in your youthful years in verse 9 and 10, and to follow kind of like your God-given desires. Like soak it all up, man. Like enjoy it. But here's what I want to be very clear about here. I'm not talking about living for those things. I'm talking about appreciating them for what God is doing with them in your life. This is a challenge to walk in the things that you enjoy and make you happy, but also not to walk in hedonism. Like, we're not talking about that today. I don't want you to think that that's what I'm encouraging you to do, because I'm not telling you to go pursue the pleasures of life that make you happy. What I'm telling you and encouraging you and kind of asking you to start doing is to start soaking in those moments where God's giving you gifts and blessings in your life, and then you turn around and you say, God, just thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I needed that. I'm thankful for that. I don't deserve that, but Lord, you are so good. I thank you for that. So there's a fine line there in enjoying the good things in life and seeing those good things as the goal of life. You need to appreciate what God is doing in your life and thank him for that. I think I can sum it up with this. Joy doesn't cancel accountability. One day you will have to give an account for those things. So joy does not cancel out accountability. So the question here is, where are you tempted to follow those desires without thinking about the consequences of them? Are they God-given desires, or are they just your own desires that you're just kind of going with the flow with? Where are you tempted to follow those desires without thinking about the consequences? Enjoy it, but don't enjoy it too much, I feel like. So to recap here, Solomon is challenging us to, one, be generous with what you have. Be generous with what you have. To trust him, to not wait for perfect conditions, and to act in faith and wisdom, both of them. To trust God's ways over yours, because his ways are far better than yours. To enjoy the light of life, to enjoy it, to soak it in, and then to enjoy life responsibly, knowing that God is blessing you with all these things, but one day you will have to give an account. So make sure the things that you are pursuing are of him rather than the way of the world. What areas of life are you living tight-fisted, not challenging your faith, but being generous with what God has given you? What are some areas you can continue to act in faith and wisdom? What would it look like for you to rejoice in everyday life? And where are you tempted to follow your desires without thinking about the long-term consequences?